back to Miss Rosie's class. Today I want to talk to you about student choice and show you some different ways that you can offer your students more opportunities for choice in your classroom. We already know that motivation plays a huge role in student success, and one of the best ways to promote intrinsic motivation in your students is to give them more autonomy. Autonomy is independence. It's personal agency. It's having the freedom to make decisions about your own life rather than having someone else make all of your choices for you. When students feel a sense of autonomy in the classroom, they have ownership over their own learning. Instead of feeling like adults are the only ones making decisions, students with autonomy are empowered to learn because they want to, and they're motivated by their own curiosity. So how do we make this happen? All we have to do is give them the chance. There are a lot of ways to offer students choice in the classroom, and you're probably already doing some of them. But there are always more opportunities for student choice, which will empower your students to own their learning even more. Let's start with a quick evaluation of the choices that are already being made in your classroom. In most of your lessons, who decides what students will learn and how they'll learn it? Who decides what questions they're asking? Who decides when they're done and what their finished work should look like? Who decides how they'll be tested or how else they'll show you what they've learned? Who makes the rubrics and decides what work is good or bad? Who sets the guidelines, assigns groups, and determines what tools students can use, or how much time they'll have to complete a task? In most classrooms, the answer to almost all of those questions is the teacher. But if our goal is to move towards more student-centered classrooms, then why are teachers still making almost all of the decisions? In different classrooms, it might not be possible to give students full autonomy right away, but that doesn't mean that you can't be working toward giving them more and more meaningful choices about their learning. Let's take a look at some different levels of classroom autonomy and what these might look like for students and teachers. Level 1 is basically no autonomy. In these classrooms, teachers are making all of the decisions for their students, and the student's job is just to follow directions. Teachers decide what they'll learn, how they'll learn it, and how they're tested. This is the old model of classroom autonomy, but a lot of classrooms still operate this way. This level assumes that the teacher always knows what's best, and that students should all be able to learn in the same way and at the same pace, which we know now is just not how learning works. Level 2 has limited autonomy, and most classrooms today probably fit in this category. In these classrooms, teachers still decide what students learn and how they learn it. They might still decide how students are tested on their learning too. But these classrooms begin to offer some autonomy to students in small ways, maybe by letting kids choose what tools they can use to research a topic or what kind of project they'll create at the end of a unit. Students in these classrooms are beginning to own small parts of their learning process, but the majority of important decisions are still being made by the teacher. In Level 3, students really get to start owning their learning. Teachers still decide what students will learn, and they probably still provide some guidelines and parameters for how they learn it. But for the most part, students are able to choose how they learn a topic. And this isn't just choosing whether to make a poster or a PowerPoint. That's what a Level 2 classroom would look like. Here, students actually get to decide what questions to ask, what research tools they can use, and the tasks they need to complete. The teacher still decides where they're going, but how students get there is entirely up to them. Level 4 classrooms give students pretty much full autonomy over their learning. In these classrooms, students decide where they're going and how they'll get there. They evaluate their own learning to determine what skills they need to master, and they determine when they've reached their goals. Throughout this process, the teacher's job is to guide them through each step and help them figure out how to get where they need to go if they get stuck. In fully autonomous classrooms, we're not throwing out the standards in the curriculum. Instead, we're putting these in the hands of our students and teaching them the skills to figure out how to map their own way. Autonomy can and should look different in every classroom, because every student learns in a different way. But the more opportunities that you give students to make their own choices, the more you'll empower them to truly own their learning. Thank you so much for joining me today in Miss Rosie's class, and I'll see you next time.
Studycat!